Let me show you how to shake your lemonade. And you don't have to jump on anybody's train. Don't you sweat it when they're throwing you the shade. You can make it. Pinky up, sip a cup of tea. Yeah, looking down from where you thought you'd never be. The paparazzi flash cashing on the scene. You can make it. Make it what you want. You can make it. You can make it what you make it. Make it what you want. Open up or else I'm not.
Good evening. So at this time, I would like to invite Sarah Zadan up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Come on up here, Sarah. So, Sarah, why don't you tell everybody how old you are?
I'm 7 years old.
And what school are you at?
Temescal Valley Elementary.
What grade?
Second.
Second grade. What's your favorite subject?
Art.
Art. Mine was lunch at that time, so you're doing a great job. So we have to present to you for helping us out with the Pledge of Allegiance, a little certificate. And Mom, did you want to come over here and take a picture? Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the City Council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver it to the City Clerk staff prior to the item being heard by the City Council. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. So now we're going to go on to our proclamations, recognitions, and presentations, and I'd like to invite Jeff Lewis, Secretary Governance Chair of Make-A-Wish Foundation, to receive the proclamation. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay, so April 29th is going to be World Wish Day, whereas every 20 minutes a child is diagnosed with critical illness, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation has a mission to grant the wish of every eligible child. And whereas for every wish we grant, there are 3 more children with critical illnesses whose wishes need financial support. And whereas Make-A-Wish Orange County and the Inland Empire celebrates its 40th year of granting over 7,800 wishes to children with critical illness in Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. And whereas 95% of Wish alumni felt more hopeful for their future after their wish, we believe that just as they have for the last 40 years in Riverside County, Wish experiences will continue to play a vital role in a child's treatment, serve as encouragement on a family's journey, and provide a source of inspiration for millions of people. And whereas World Wish Day is a national Make-A-Wish event that commemorates 43 years since our first wish and celebrates our mission of creating life-changing wishes for children with critical illness. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Tony Daddario, on behalf of the Corona City Council, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2023 as World Wish Day. I urge each individual in the community to take time and spread awareness of the work done by Make-A-Wish. By doing so, you can inspire more volunteers and more people to donate to Make-A-Wish on World Wish Day. I will turn the mic over to you, sir.
Tony, thank you. I don't even need to bring this because you summed it up so beautifully right there, those talking points. But on behalf of Make-A-Wish, I want to thank the City of Corona. My day job is I'm the market president for U.S. Bank serving the Inland Empire, and I'm a proud resident here of the City of Corona. So when I had an opportunity to come today, I was like, I'll do it. I am the only board member that resides in the Inland Empire, so if anyone is ever interested in participating in Make-A-Wish, please reach out. But we do serve Riverside, San Bernardino counties, also here in the City of Corona. If you want to learn more about Make-A-Wish, you can follow us on socials. It's Make-A-Wish OCIE, and we're always looking for support within the community. So I appreciate the board's time today, and thanks for the time.
Thank you very much, and we have this proclamation to give, and if we can get a picture really quick.
They would yell at me if I didn't bring anything back.
Two more. At this time, I would like to invite Sophia Betancourt, President of the Day of the Child Committee, to receive a proclamation. How are you?
Good, thank you. You want me on this
No,
side or
right
this
here.
side? There you go. Okay.
Okay, so the 29th Annual Day of the Child,
Yes.
April 22nd, 2023. Whereas the month of April is being observed throughout the nation as an official celebration of children as a vital component in the growth and spirit of our communities, and whereas during the week of national effort will be made to unite, strengthen a voice for our nation's youngest citizens and their families, and whereas attention will be focused on the needs of young children and their families through public information activities and the promotion of increased involvement from government groups and departments devoted to serving children. And whereas the 29th Annual Day of the Child celebration will take place this Saturday,
Correct.
April 22nd, 2023 at Corona City Park, and the day will be filled with activities, games, entertainment, and community service booths for children of all ages to enjoy. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Tony Daddario, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, as Day of the Child in the City of Corona, and encourage all citizens to participate and lend support to this worthwhile community event. So, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here with you all today.
This is our 29th annual Day of the Child. We have over 50 nonprofits and organizations that are going to participate in providing activities for the children. We have our famous ponies coming, and we have a surprise guest actually that is going to come. It's a large horse. For all those adults who had the wish of being on a pony and never got it, we're going to have a big horse that they could go for on a ride as well. Yes, Tony. I thank you for this opportunity and invite all of you out there to the Corona Norco Day of the Child at the City Park on Saturday from 10 to 2.
If I remember correctly, our Vice Mayor Richens last year had a little bit of too much of a good time. So let's keep it. Let's remember, it's the Day of the Child, not Day of Tom. So let's take a picture. Okay, so our last proclamation for the evening is going to be the YMC Healthy Kids Day. And I would like to invite Audrey Eknoz, CEO of the YMCA, to receive the proclamation. Come on. Yeah. How are you?
Great, how are you?
Apparently, we didn't get purple shirts. Jackie got the memo.
Oh, we'll make sure you get prepared.
Yeah.
We'll make sure.
All right, so Healthy Kids Day, April 29th, 2023. Whereas Healthy Kids Day is the WISE national initiative to improve the health and well-being of kids and families. And whereas for over 30 years, Healthy Kids Day has celebrated kids' mental and physical health while teaching healthy habits for kids and families, encouraging active play and inspiring a lifetime of love of physical activity. And whereas on April 29th, more than 1,400 YMCA locations across all 50 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico, will be hosting events featuring fun games and activities to keep kids moving and learning. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Tony Daddario, on behalf of Corona City Council, do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2023 as Healthy Kids Day and encourage all citizens to participate and lend support to this worthwhile community event. Are you speaking?
Thank you so much, Mayor and City Council members, everyone. We are so honored to be here tonight. We want to invite all of you and the whole community to come out on April 29th. It will be a day of total fun like you've never had before, including swimming and all things water related. So we're just so excited to be here for the community and to offer this out to everybody. And I'm going to allow our board chair, Roy, to share a little bit more.
Thank you. My name is Roy Van Moyen. I'm the board chair for the Corona Norco Family YMCA. City Council and Mayor, I thank you for this proclamation. Por si acaso hay individuales que hablan español, me llamo Roy Van Moyen, soy el director de la Junta Directiva del Corona Norco YMCA, Family YMCA. Y les quiero agradecer por este honor, ciudad, y el día 29 de abril quiero invitarles a todos que vengan a participar, esa es la palabra, participar en nuestro día de Healthy Kids. Gracias.
Take a picture. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the proclamations?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. Moving on to the meeting minutes. The Committee of the Whole of April 5th, 2023, and the City Council meeting of April 5th, 2023. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the meeting?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for meeting minutes.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Motion.
Okay, please vote. Okay, that item passes 5-0. Moving on to consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion. With the concurrence of the city council, a council member, or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. Would my colleagues like to pull any items for discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Wes?
Number 11, 13, 16, and 18. Or no, 18 is after. Never mind.
11, 13, and 16?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jim?
11.
And I already have yours here.
11 and 15. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
11. I didn't really want to pull it.
Okay.
Yeah, I withdraw my 11, so Tom could have.
All right. So let's see. We have items 11, 13, 15, and 16. Ms. Edwards, were there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, I received one speaker card for agenda item 11.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
So we have, hold on one second. Items 8, 9, 10, 12, 14.
11.
That's it. Okay. So those items. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second. Please vote. Okay, the item passes 5-0. Okay, so seeing as we have multiple people that were pulling item 11, I'll start with the public first because that was the one that the public had. So whoever pulled item number 11.
Good evening, Joe Morgan, 2063 Ren. So this afternoon, we had an interesting discussion about both caring about and investing in downtown. And here's a concrete example of a step that is being taken even under the guise of not actually taking a step. We're just hiring a consultant, but many times the consultants are hired to tell a story that someone wants to be told. It's not like you just cast it up and say, come tell us what to do about a performing arts center. It's an open secret that the plan is to buy the Dos Lagos Theater and locate the Performing Arts Center at Dos Lagos. This is not a shock to anybody. Everybody's talking about it, and it's wrong. It's wrong. So this is a place where there ought to be a decision to, look at everybody's like, oh my God, we would never do something like that. Well, hey, you know what? If it's wrong, then there's a whole lot of other people that are on the same, have the same information that I do. This is a place that you could decide. You could use your discretion. You could use some Measure X money. You could put a chip down. We had a discussion about what you do about a downtown. If businesses are viable down there, you don't have the incentive to flip a property and make it residential. Businesses follow where the government invests. What's the old saying? You want to know what you care about? Let me see your budget. I'll tell you what you care about. You invest in downtown. This is a place where you could decide that this is an investment that you want to make. A Performing Arts Center downtown is an investment. It's a thing that would make the downtown. You put it right next to the library. You basically have a downtown right there. You drive people down there, the private sector will follow. That's what happened downtown Riverside. You know, you had an investment in downtown and the private sector followed. And now they have a downtown. So, you know, nobody comes down and invests in a downtown because you had a slick PowerPoint. They come because you spend money. They come because you say this is a value to us and we're going to put something down here. So this shouldn't be cast it to the wind and here, tell me what you think, consultant. No, how do we build one here? How do we build a performing arts center? How do we invest our money and our resources into a performing arts center downtown that would make the downtown? This is the most obvious thing you could possibly do. Instead, we're sort of just going and we're going to do like we've always done for the last 20-something years. We're going to look at ways to prop up a strip mall on the edge of town. And that's wrong. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, sorry, I received 2 additional cards for this agenda item.
Okay. We'll take them one at a time.
Good evening, council members. Don Kindred, 2830 Via Mazatlan, Corona. And I encourage you to support item 11. It will work. It's not necessarily a purchase by the city of that theater down there. I don't know where that came from. Not true. But there are viable opportunities at Dos Lagos, and I'd really like you to consider that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. Michelle Wentworth, Parks and Recreation Commissioner, but on this topic, I'm speaking as a resident. That has to be said for the record. As a resident, I volunteered quite a bit with Don, and there was several years of meetings that he was doing, getting the community members together in the performing arts and really trying to grow this in this community. And he's done a phenomenal job with that and with the symphony. It's a little bit like herding cats, but I think that all his work is kind of paying off because you're here right now willing to discuss doing something for the performing arts in this city in a big way. And so that's why I'm encouraging you to just go with this, see what the feasibility is, what we can do. And I think the support from the community is there, and I think you'll see that there will be a success in Corona. So thank you.
Thank you. So it looks like this item was pulled by Councilmember Casillas, Councilmember Speak, in solidarity by Vice Mayor Richens. But before we get to them, I just need to address something that it's my understanding that the whole point of this item here is to understand whether or not we could support a performing arts center and how best to move forward with that. I am unaware of any plan to buy anything in order for a performing arts center, simply because we have no information to do so. So I wanted to clear that up because it's important. Since her name is first, we'll go with Councilmember Casillas.
I appreciate it, Mayor. And thank you for saying that because I was going to start with that. I want to just quote the study, the staff report, okay? An industry standard feasibility study would provide an informed perspective on the development of a new structure, improvements to the historic civic center, and the intentional programming of these facilities. This includes identifying current assets, understanding the market for these services, and determining next steps if a project of this nature is even viable for the community. So nothing in this feasibility study says we will neglect the historic civic center. I am in favor of this. Thank you.
Member Speak?
Thank you. How about we get the report? That'd be good, right? Is there a report, sir?
You want to ask for the report?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Director Turner is here tonight, and she can walk you through this a little bit.
Yeah, I figured we have a person here that's been leading the program. It'd be great to hear right from her mouth.
Thank you, Council. Ann Turner, Director of Community Services. We're very excited about bringing forward this feasibility study to you. We're well aware at the staff level that this council wants data and wants to understand data and make the most informed decisions as possible. This is the industry standard to go out and do a feasibility study. We have selected a consultant that we believe will be able to help us capture the data that we need to understand where Coronans are going for arts now. Would they support arts here in this community? And how can we better use some of the assets that we have? You'll note that in the staff report, we talk about a two-phased approach. We talk about the fact that we would be gathering data first. We would be able to present that data back to the city council. We are asking tonight for you to allocate $212,200. This includes both the phase one, in which we would come back and then report to council before moving to phase two. But we're asking for the full allocation now so that we can move forward and not lose any momentum if in fact we decide to go to that phase two. But the phase one is the part that we're really focusing on tonight, which is that information gathering piece and having a consultant work with us to get the kind of data that we as staff are not going to be able to get just in outreach efforts. And it will also help us as we look into this 100th year of the Historic Civic Center and how we want to purposefully program that theater. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do you have any questions?
Yes. So thank you for clarifying that phase one will be a report back to us for authorization for phase two, even though we are authorizing the full amount right now. Can you talk a little bit about what phase two, what would trigger us not doing phase two if the data came back saying that there wasn't support?
I mean, I would imagine that if the data came back and said that every single Coronian is fully satiated with arts experiences and would never leave their house again to do arts, I mean, it would be that the data didn't support it, or that people are already engaged in places outside of Corona, that somebody does something better or uniquely enough that we wouldn't want to compete with that there was no reason to compete with that. Okay. But no matter what phase one comes back with, we as staff are looking forward to the information to glean about how we use our existing asset, which is the theater at the HCC. That information will be priceless to us regardless of if we go into a phase two looking for some other kind of structure. It'll be important to us to know how we can program that theater to meet some of the needs of this community.
Great. Yeah, I just want to make sure that was very clear, just because, it wasn't foregone conclusion. However, the important part is getting both pieces of data, which is how we can use our existing facilities in the best way possible, and whether or not, and what that would look like. And that's, I guess, my question, make sure that that's what we're going to get is, if it warranted another space, it would describe what that space should look like and how it should be run in order to be effective and used and all the fun things.
Absolutely, and that's in line with all of the investment that this council has made in the master planning process. This is right in line with what we're doing with all of our facilities, our parks, our trails. This is the kind of work that this council has asked staff to provide before so that you can make the most informed decision.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Councilmember Steiner?
Yeah, I pulled this item. I just wanted to thank Don Kindred. Just want to thank him for his tenacity. He's been at this for years now, as Michelle said, and yeah, he deserves that. And as a private citizen, he has been shaking the tree throughout the community, trying to figure out what some options may be. So me and Don get together every week, so we talk about this. And yeah, he has spoken with the property owners out at Dos Lagos, and there may be some options or there may not be. But I'm stoked that he's doing that, and I'm stoked that we're going to be getting options and we'll just see how it shakes out, if it shakes out. So, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I just want to go on the record. The $230,000 is a lot of money, but I think sometimes you need to wisely spend money to chase vision. And I really, really hope that the feasibility report comes back that we can do this. And that's where I'm at.
Okay, so is there a motion on item 11?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we vote, Ms. Edwards, the written comments that you had, was it for item 11?
No, they're for communication from the public.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now we can vote, sorry. Okay, that item passes 5-0, and looking forward to the results of the study. Okay, the next item that was pulled by Councilmember Speak was item number 13.
Thank you, sir. I just had a question, Mr. Ellis, that we're awarding this contract to Roth Ames. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. My only question is whether or not they would be conflicted out from doing additional work in support of this. Mr. Ellis? Sorry.
Please repeat the question.
No problem. I was asking about the award to Roth Ames and asking whether or not they would be conflicted out of doing work in support of any work that they would be producing.
I still need to research the answer to that question. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay. I'm getting a quizzical look by the city attorney.
Yeah, I'm not aware of this issue. What is the question?
The question is whether or not, so we're paying a company to go out and do a citywide building assessment, maintenance, and capital improvement plan. And once they write this plan on what to do and how to do it, would they be conflicted out of doing that work?
So it's interesting that you asked that question because we had based upon existing case law and opinions, we had assumed that if you did substantial work towards a public improvement, that you could be conflicted out. But based upon a recent, I'm getting into the weeds here, but based upon a recent opinion that we obtained from the FPPC about the particular issue, they said unless you contract with them to prepare the specifications for the public works project,
Okay.
they're not conflicted out. So if they're just doing assessment of the types of work that needs to be done and not actually drafting the specifications to do that work, don't hold me to this because the FPPC can change their mind at any time, but
Yeah,
my understanding is the FPPC does not see that as a financial conflict of interest.
My question is based on so we're hiring this company to do an assessment. I figured there's got to be some institutional knowledge on how you do that. And if we're going to have somebody do either follow-up work, want to make sure that they're not designing a Rubik's Cube only they can solve.
Well, we want to make sure that that's a practical issue, right? That we want to make sure doesn't happen, right?
Right.
Yeah, but it should
And
not
we
be.
will endeavor to ensure that is not the case, that we are satisfied with their work quality and that we insist it's something that could be transferred and someone else could take that over at a later date if they needed to.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. With that, I'll make the motion if there's no other comments.
I actually do have one other comment. So I guess I just want to make sure that I understand then if this agreement, if they can't, if they're precluded from doing the work, if they write specification on what needs to be done.
I don't believe they're going to draft the specification on the work to be done. They're going to assess what work needs to be done, not the actual design of the work to be done. They won't actually get down to the detail of preparing the plans and specs for the public works project itself.
Well, I guess the question would be though, if that's the case law that we're working under, do we want just an assessment of the work that needs to be done without giving us an understanding of how to perform that work or what the particulars of that work is?
I'll speak to that, yeah, because this is many, many different buildings that are going to be assessed. And so to expand the scope to actually have some kind of construction guidance would be wildly more complex than what we're doing here. This is that first step to assess all of our buildings, to make sure that we have a good understanding of what goes into our asset management plan. And from there, we then time CIP projects that would then be designed for actual remediation. But this is really looking at what's the age of your buildings, what's the life cycle, what's the condition today, and so forth. Construction design would be far more detailed than what we're doing here.
Okay, thank you. And I believe there was a motion, and I'll second it. Please vote. Okay, that item passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to Councilmember Casillas, item number 15.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Let me pull up my notes. So this is the request to increase the Kids Club fees. And, you know, I read through the report, and Mr. Ellis, what I gathered from the report is that we haven't increased the fees in quite some time, and we're below market rate, so therefore we should increase the fees. And that's not enough for me.
Sure.
Could you speak to what costs have gone up to justify an increase?
So I'll speak to the first part of this, and then I'm going to ask Director Ann Turner to also jump in on this. And so the fees are generally set at 50% of the market rate that we're seeing around us. And so these are set consistently today with the proposed new increase from $52 to $65 would be about half of what you'd see at the YMCA, for example, for similar programs. There are free income-based programs that are offered through CNUSD. We're sort of finding that sweet spot of about 50% of market. And of course, that excludes your private daycare centers, which are even more expensive than those. But that adjustment is kind of keeping us at about the 50% threshold of what market rate is. And from there, I'm going to turn it over to Ann to elaborate further.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ellis. Thank you, Councilmember Casillas. We have designed this program primarily to be for working families that are not income qualified for ACES and for whom $165 a week or $150 a week is just going to be too burdensome. We work really closely with CUNSD to make sure that we are able to get the information out to families and that they're able to know that this is an option for them. We do have waiting lists at most of our sites. We have done a survey with our families, and the number one survey response from our families is, it's a good price, almost number one. So we know right now that we are dipping well below market, and what we don't want to do is have families have it be so that they're buying several weeks and then their student isn't participating, right? We want to be right at that place where it's affordable and people can come. We've also had increased costs. So as I'm sure you're well aware, Council at the Spring Financial Workshop last year increased our part-time pay for our rec leaders, and this is already a subsidized program. So we try at the site level to do cost recovery, meaning for the items that are at the site level, but our staff is costing us more, and that is part of what precipitated us looking at this. But we also don't want to be so far skewed outside of the market. We want to stay right at that sort of median level where we're at 50% of market.
We have families now that are paying for this and that are not going?
We have seen that happen. This has not happened particularly at any one of our kids club sites, but we have seen this happen with our daycare and in the market of after-school programs amongst parks and recreation professionals. If your price is too low, then basically people just do it as a placeholder and we don't have regular participation. So we want to make sure that we're right in that sweet spot of 50%.
Okay, so I understand the hypothetical, but we're not saying that that's necessarily actually happening. And this $52 a week for 38 weeks was just under $2,000. And are we saying that the folks that are participating in this are not are not low income?
It varies. It varies on our families. We do not have income qualifications. Ours is a first come, first serve program. But we work really closely both with the Parent Center and CUNSD to make sure that families get the resources that they need. And the ACES program, which is an income qualified program offered through the school district, is often at many of the same sites that we are at. If there is a family for some reason that can't afford what we are, our price, and they are income qualified, we try to connect them with an ACES program. We do have a recreation scholarship, but it is really intended to sort of answer an immediate need. So let's say that my child is in Kids Club and we are budgeted for that, and my tires went out and I had to use that money, unfortunately, to replace my tires. We have the ability to cover somebody's for about 1 week of Kids Club in that kind of an emergency. So we have about $100 scholarship that we offer through our recreation scholarship program, where we could cover that family for that week, but we do not have an ongoing scholarship program. What we would do for a family for whom this was too expensive is to really work with them, sit down with them, talk with them, and see if we could connect them with the best possible resources.
So, I pulled this item because, at our core as a city, we are a service organization, and I feel strongly about us being able to provide high quality, good programs, especially those that have the power to lift people out of poverty and or help our working class citizens. And childcare is insanely out of reach for most families. And if you have multiple children at $2,000 a year, it's a lot. And just in the same vein that I'm comfortable with us subsidizing public transit and our Corona Cruiser, and I want us to invest even more heavily in the Dial-A-Ride program. I would love to offer even more assistance here with childcare. This provides kids a safe environment after school to continue and be, in a safe environment with engaging topics in a safe place. So, and the report just doesn't, being at 50% of the medium is just not a justifiable argument for me as to why we should raise the price. And again, we're a service organization, so this would increase the revenue from just under 244,000 to just under 794,000. And why? So I'm an adamant no on this. Thank you.
I have a question as well, but go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
How many kids does this program help? Do you know? And if it's in the staff report, it's just because I missed it.
Let me go through and tell you. I can tell you by site. We have 10 school sites on. I'm really hating this microphone tonight. I'm sorry. We have 10 school sites that serve an average of 33 youth per site. We have some sites that are bigger and some sites that are smaller. We also...
So 330 roughly, right?
Roughly, yes. But we work with, right now, we work with the school district. Again, as I was mentioning, we do, at many of the sites, we are one after-school provider. There are multiple after-school providers, so there may be the YMCA at that same school site, or there may be ACES at that same school site. We are one option for families at that school site. And I will say that in some of our elementary schools, we are already at $62. Both Temescal Valley Elementary School and Wilson Elementary School are already at $62, and they would be moving to $65.
What are the other schools?
$52. And so at this point, with the cost increase for our staff, as well as being able to deliver high-quality programs and being able to provide the kind of resources that we want these kids to be able to use both for craft and after-school items and their homework help. We believe as staff that this increase is merited. And we believe that it still keeps the price. Just as a comparison, I know that Mr. Ellis talked about this, but CUNSD has 14 ACES sites. Those are free for income qualified children. We have 10 sites that we are proposing at $65. JCSD, which is in the Eastvale area, has various sites. They are also a public organization. They're at $75 at their sites. They have 5 of those. The YMCA is $140 a week plus an $85 annual registration fee, and tutor time is $172 per week.
Thank you. Jacob, I know money's got to make sense, right? But is there any way we can find some money in the general fund to avoid these cost increases?
Yeah, setting the rate is entirely within council's purview. It would simply be slightly lower revenues. That's totally up to you if you wish to do that.
But I don't want to diminish service. I think what Dr. Turner is saying is that staff is given good level of service and they're really helping out and they need these cost increase to maintain level of service. So I'm just asking, can we take money from somewhere else to backfill this?
Yes.
You had a question, but I just wanted to ask something because I was rereading it, and one thing I just want to make sure I understand under the financial impact. By asking for this increase, we're going to increase the amount that we're putting to the total for the fiscal year by $243,000, which brings the total projected revenue for fiscal year 2024 to just under $800,000. But the anticipated costs are $854,000 for the same fiscal year. So if we did nothing and did not increase the rates, we'd be operating at about a $250,000 loss. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is already a subsidized program. One of the things that staff really wants to do, and what we've heard, we did some extensive parent surveys to understand what our parents want from us. And one of the things our parents said that they wanted from us was greater communication and understanding. There's nothing more terrifying in a parent than when you call and you have a question about what's happening with your kid and maybe the answer is delayed. This is an opportunity for us to have staff available to answer phones at all times. Right now, obviously we have staff at our site and they can answer the phones, but it gives us also the opportunity to communicate with our parents on a regular basis about what's going on with their kids and have somebody who's regularly answering those phones and answering those phone calls. And that's something that they asked for in their parent survey. What they said to us is that the service at the site is amazing. They believe it's a great value. We got some beautiful comments from parents about the quality of the program, which we are thrilled about. And what they said when we asked, what is the deficit for you? Like, what are we missing? What could we do better? And resoundingly, they said, communicate. Quicker responses. People answering the phone and getting back to us quickly. When we have a question about our child or we're concerned about, I want to let you know right away that, Sally is going to be bringing cupcakes on, Thursday for their kid's birthday. Is that okay? And what does that look like? And all of those kinds of things that our staff are waiting until after Kids Club is over at 6 p.m. This question, right? Because unlike many other after-school programs, Kids Club is from the last bell. So if the last bell is at 12 noon, we go from 12 noon to 6 p.m. Most other programs are not from the bell. They are, we start at 2, we end at 6. If your kid gets out at noon, you've got 2 hours you've got to figure out. we are trying to be there and fill that gap for parents. And the biggest thing that they told us that was a deficit for them was that communication piece. And so to staff for that communication piece and to understand the cost of part-time staff, which has changed for us, we believe that this is a necessary increase. And again, I think you point out very clearly, Mayor, this is already a subsidized program. This is a program where we do not make one dime. Every bit of the money that is taken in is expended on the program.
Okay.
Mayor, can I just interject really quick?
Please.
I do want to make it clear to council that you are not faced with the option of either poor customer service and communication or raising rates. There are other ways to get there, and that's essentially is that you would be spending money more from sales tax than you would from recovering it from fees. Those are legitimate decisions for you to make. If you wish to improve service and not increase rates, we would simply take those funds from our sales tax Measure X or General Fund 110. If you wish to do both, you can do that. This is not an either or option for you. It's a typical way that we would recover these fees is through rates. But you do have two options here, just to clarify.
Dr. Turner, you mentioned about folks that subscribe to the program but then don't come. I just want to, my own personal experience, it was many years ago, we would typically pay for an entire week and depending on what kids had going on, and then frankly, when we figured out how much money we were spending on it, we ended up cutting it back and doing some different things. But I wanted to see, you'd kind of mentioned there was people who did that, and do we run out of room?
So absolutely, and so we have tried to create a solve for that problem. So we now have so many waiting lists that if you're not, participating in the program, we have a conversation with you and say, there's other families who are very eager to be in this program and they're on the waiting list. Do you think this is the right program for you? If you really only need coverage on Tuesday and Thursday, but you're holding a slot that's Monday through Friday, how can we help you find the right program that we can tailor if you just need coverage on Tuesday and Thursday? And how can we make that work for you? The key for us is to make sure that families and their children have a safe, engaging, and lower all of the barriers to after-school care. Having been a single parent myself, I understand that. I was working in Orange County and my son was in LA County, and I can tell you that drive on the 57 was nail-biting every time because I had to get there by 6 o'clock, and I was like, ah! So we are really very sensitive to what particularly our commuting parents are struggling with. And what we want to do is find the right fit. Our program at this price lowers barriers. It's there for working families. We do it from the last bell to 6 o'clock. And when it's not working, we have wait lists at every single site. Some of our wait lists are as many as 20 kids who would love to be a part of the program. And again, it's about being able to hire the staff. It's about being able to have enough rec leaders to be able to extend and grow the sites, and then to work with our partners at the site to make sure the child's in the right place.
Thank you. And I guess I just want to make sure I understand that we're not the only game in town, that there are other options, including no cost and very low cost options, and there's ones that transport kids around and all kinds of fun stuff. So I don't have any issue with us charging a fair price. In fact, of all the people I've ever talked to about Kids Club, they love it, and the kids have a great time. I've never had one person say, "Oh, it's too expensive, it's too hard to do." I mean, if anything, they want more time. They want to go to a little later, or the option to, so they don't get, if they're 10 minutes late, they get in trouble. So thank you.
Councilmember Casillas?
Yeah, I want to clarify. This isn't that the program isn't good. In fact, it's great. It's whether or not we want to pass on an increased rate, an increased cost to our residents who are currently experiencing likely a higher cost of rent and gas and X, Y, and Z. And what I'm saying is we are a service organization and we have and should subsidize programs like this. And the staff report doesn't lay out an increased cost. If you read the staff report, this increase is not justified. There is a line about it keeping with, there's several lines about it keeping to market value and then saying ensuring the operating at the site level is cost recovery. But it's a question for us to decide, is it so important for us to increase cost recovery, or are we going to put ourselves in the shoes of that parent on the freeway who's biting their nails trying to get to their kid, who, this would impact their financial bottom lines, and if they have multiple kids, and if they're doing this every single year. It is a decision of whether or not that is important enough for us to subsidize at a higher rate.
So I sympathize with what you're saying or have empathy for it, because I'm also a dad that, is paying for childcare, and I see that. One of the things that I'm going to be practical for a second, the charge for Kids Club has not been raised since 2018. Right? It's been the same price for the last 5 years, knowing that in the last 5 years, the city has continued to increase costs and the burden that we've already been subsidizing it. I guess my question would be, because I like the idea of finding an extra $300,000 from something. There is a cost. It's going to come from somewhere to subsidize this. But just a question, philosophical, if you will. How long would you say is a good stretch of time for us to continue to subsidize it, knowing that the costs are going to go up almost every year? But how long would you, this is like a budget item, a reoccurring budget item.
You're not going to like my answer, because I believe society should provide free childcare.
Okay.
So genuinely, I believe that childcare and social services should be a thing that we should be providing for one another. And that's the way I feel. So this is one of those programs that, just like, being able to have access to transportation, I think it should be a thing that comes with existing.
Okay, so is there an alternate motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
You never even looked at me, dude.
I'm so sorry.
No,
Oh,
look, we've had a few items come before us over the last few years that have been put off and put off and put off for various reasons. And all of a sudden, it comes before us, and it's a lot of money, a lot more than what I think most of us would feel comfortable on several of those issues. But if we just would have minor incremental increases along the way, we wouldn't be faced with these bigger dollar decisions. Do I think we need to cover our costs? Of course. But because we didn't touch this for 5 years, can we phase it in? Can we phase in $650 this year, $650 next year to cover the $13? Because eventually, to the mayor's point, I don't think free health or free childcare is going to happen anytime soon. So, maybe is that an option to where we could compromise and phase $650 in this year, $650 a week, and then get to that point, and then try not to go 5 or 10 or 15 years without even looking at something, and then hitting the city council with, oh, you got 25% increase you got to do. That's BS.
So while we're considering alternate motions, why don't we listen to the speaker card?
Joe Morgan, 206. So the whole time I'm thinking I have a novel approach on the whole thing, and then you kind of blow me out of the water. It's a 25% increase. This is $50 a month or $100 a month if you have 2 kids. That's not right. And I find no small amount of irony that you have a whole bunch of people roughly from the wood to that wall that have 6-figure or well above 6-figure incomes sitting there going, well, it's only $13. That's bull. That's bull. I don't think you guys probably know a lot of people that $50 a month, you want to know what's terrifying? You want to know what's terrifying to most people? It's nice that people can't get a hold of you. If you lose this childcare because that $50 isn't there, that's a real thing. Okay, so I know people that are living that close to the edge. It's not right. And to your point, Mr. Steiner, is why? We could, we're arguing over a couple $100,000. Look, Measure X is $15 million over what you guys said in this room it was going to be. Remember I said it was 40 and you guys laughed, and then it's 45 now? So arguing over $200,000 on this, are you kidding me? This is the kind of stuff that you should be doing with it. Not fixing the air conditioning at the police station. You want people thought that the place was going to get better, that services were going to get better. That's what they voted for. Not like, oh, well, let me take care of some regular maintenance stuff. So when it comes right down to, whether you should do this or you shouldn't, I can't believe this is even really a discussion. Look, if in this whole, it's in keeping with a 2.7%. That's not, 2.7 is $53.04. Okay, you want to do that? Do that. I think most people can kind of understand that. It's $4 or $5 every year that it goes up. People get that. People can make adjustments for that. Their pay is going to go up by a certain amount. That's how inflation works. But to go with 25% for the childcare, that's not fair. That's not right. Thank you very much.
Is there any other speaker cards? Yeah.
Good evening, Michelle Wentworth, Parks Commission. I just wanted to share with you that none of the residents came to the Parks Commission to address this issue, and with our discussions, we supported the increase in that. I'll just give you a little context. We've had, prior to this in 2018, when we went through this, we did have a bunch of parents come down and talk to us. And a lot of the problem that was going on was that placeholding that Dr. Turner is talking about, because it was the way they were structuring what they were paying and how they were paying it. So when the city came up with a solution, it's not great for everybody, but it's kind of that compromise where it needs to be. And it's still, at this point where we're at, it's still subsidized. It's unfortunate that 5 years went by without the increase, and that it seems like you're getting hit with a lot. As a commission, we don't have the power to say yay or nay in the detail that you guys do, where you can come to a compromise. And I agree with Councilman Steiner, me speaking as a resident, not the Parks Commission. If you could phase this in a little bit more gradually, but you're still going to have to meet your costs, because do you want to expand this program? Do you want to work with the school district? Do you want to have enough employees? Do you want to do those kinds of things? You want to make it more accessible for more people at more sites. And ultimately, if you can't employ the people and you can't do it because you can't break even as a city and you just get further and further down in it, we're not taxing for childcare. If we want to put that on the ballot, we could. But my issue is, are you balancing the budget? Can you pass this along? If you could do it in a couple of slower increases, that would be great. That's not under the purview of the Parks Commission. That's not something we could necessarily get into. I can see where you can come with that as a conclusion. But I also just wanted to share with you that we had no opposition when we did the 2018, we had a huge amount of opposition to it. And a lot of it had to do with this placeholding and the displacement of families, because it almost was too low, and the way they structured it and had them buy certain days and buy a week, and it was becoming untenable. So the reforms that the staff has put in place have been working, and the popularity has been growing. And I've been to the site. It's a good program, and I appreciate that you guys understand that. So that gives you a little bit of, the Parks Commission went ahead and supported it, but also gives you a little bit of my opinion where you could go with it. But I do think that you need to keep it subsidized at 50% and have your cost recovery be there, so you're covering your costs. You could phase it in a different way, certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more speakers?
Good evening, I'm Don Fuller. I can think of few things more important than the care of our children. And there are some places in this country where they do a really poor job of taking care of the kids, and I think Corona does a good job. I'm not smart enough to know what this should cost. Ask Dr. Turner. She'll give you those answers. You people are all smart people. You can make this work. But I'm back there in the back of the room. I wasn't going to speak on this till I heard the conversations going. You know, part of me wants to reach out and just adopt 2 or 3 of these kids and just write the check for them every month. Unfortunately, I mean, there was a time when I could have done that, but I can't now. I write a big check every month to take care of my wife, as some of you know. So I can't adopt 2 or 3 of those kids. But, and like I said, I'm not smart enough to know what the cost should be. I agree with Councilmember Casillas. I'm in favor of free childcare, but it ain't going to happen for a long time. But we should try to find some place that makes it as good as it can for the parents who are trying to take care of these kids. And you certainly don't want to see the program go away. And it's not going to go away. But clearly, it's a wonderful program. Clearly, the information that Dr. Turner gives you tells you it's a wonderful program. All you have to do, all you 5 smart people have to do, just make it work. You know what's the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards, is there any more speaker cards?
Mayor, we do not have any more speaker cards.
Okay. I'm going to take a wild stab at a amended motion on this. So was that? Yeah. So I'm going to move that that we continue this item and staff comes back to us with options for what it looks like if we cover the costs ourselves and a phased-in approach to raising the monthly fee. Is that clear as mud?
Yeah, I understand the motion. I'm not obviously involved, so I'm.
I think we already know what the costs are, and if we do a phase approach, it's just deciding what the number would be.
Well, if where could the money come from, right? So we know what the cost is, but where would it come
The
from?
money is either from Measure X or from general fund.
I'm a second on that.
Well, can't we just vote to phase it in now?
But
Why?
I don't want to phase it in, but I want to explore the possibility of maybe us funding it somewhere else.
Okay.
So there's a first and a second, and we'll vote on that. Okay.
Thank you.
Passes. Yep. Okay. Can someone remind me what, that was number 15? There we go, okay.
Maybe.
There we go. Okay, so the next item that was pulled by Councilmember Speak was item number 16, the grant to accept and appropriate $100,000 in library services and technology, ACT funds for the eBooks Corona project. Mr. Speak.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to give a little chance to Dr. Turner to brag a little bit on us using other people's money for stuff for our residents. If that's okay, Mr. Ellis. I know, I'm sorry, I'm disturbing you.
I didn't know the question was directed at me to begin with. Could you repeat that again?
I would like Dr. Turner to explain and maybe brag a little bit about using other people's money for our residents.
We'd love to do that. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
So this is thrilling, Council. I'm glad to have an item that makes me so happy. This item is that we are going to accept $100,000 in Federal Library Services and Technology Act funds. This is, we became aware through the state library that we had the opportunity to leverage some of the money that we had for our ebooks and our electronic resources, and that we could leverage that to unlock $100,000 in ebooks and e-resources. And you will see those already available on our website. So you can start already downloading some great ebooks. And we are asking that the council authorize the appropriation of $20,000 of the community services operating budget, which then unlocks $100,000 of ebook resources for our community.
That reminds me of when you go to Costco, sometimes you get like $100 worth of gift certificates at Lucille's for $80.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
This is even better.
Yeah. And we love to spend other people's money. So
That's
that's
my favorite kind of money.
my favorite kind of money. Is there a motion?
I want to see if there's any speaker cards.
Oh. Is there any speaker cards, Ms. Edwards?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards.
Okay.
Somebody else made the motion.
I made the
already,
motion.
So I'll second.
Can we get Lucille's?
Okay, that item passes 5-0. Communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have 10 speaker cards for communication from the public, and we have 3 written comments from anonymous residents. The 3 written comments are with the residents expressing concern with short-term rental. Those will be sent to the full city council and also filed with the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Did you say we had 10 speaker cards?
Yes, 10 speaker
Okay.
cards.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Karen Alexander, Planning Commissioner. Earlier today at the study session, I pulled the blue card, and I wanted to talk about the Historic Resources Ordinance that was before you. I wasn't sure that I conveyed my thoughts because the format that was provided seemed rushed, and I didn't want to impose on your time restraints. And it seemed like you might not get through it just with whatever your time was designated. I wasn't sure. But it was, I don't know how often you've run into the situation, but as far as a blue card speaker, I felt like it wasn't conducive to a good discussion. Maybe once before I saw that at one of your meetings, environmental or economic development had to postpone. So anyway, I didn't know that it was a great process. It seems disconnected, maybe, and segmented. But anyway, first of all, I wanted to say that I wasn't opposed to a commission for historic purposes or even a committee. I think anything that lends itself to allowing the public to know about programs as far as the Mills Act or as far as opportunities the city might offer for residents living within the circle, whether it's designated as a historic district or not, could have its advantages as far as building and improvements to those homes. And I think the city looks to restoring downtown and the homes within the circle. I think even Measure X funds could be used to, much like CDBG funds and home funds are used for a targeted audience, perhaps there could be funding set aside for folks to give them opportunities to improve their homes in whatever manner they choose to do so within the circle, whether it's Mills Act level or just improving in general. The other thing I just wanted to say off topic was it was great to see Make-A-Wish recognized tonight. My niece battled lymphoma as a 16-year-old, and so they do great work, and she, after a year of battling cancer, she was able to get her wish, and it was really cool. It made a big difference in her life. Anyway, I just wanted to continue my conversation from earlier. Thank you.
Ms. Alexander, I want to take responsibility for that. That topic was pretty long and lengthy, and I wanted to make sure that that was the whole point of separating it and asking for a continuance, is I wanted to get through what we could in the amount of time that we had and make sure that everything had the amount of proper time that it deserved to have that discussion. There's obviously some strong opinions on here, but I want to take responsibility for that. I didn't want to rush it to get through it, which is why I limited it just to the first 2 topics. And we'll get through the rest.
I understand.
Yeah. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Also to the people in the front row over here. I'm going to speak on 2 things tonight. The first thing is I just want to again continue your continued support looking into RSO. I know it's going on behind the scenes and we haven't heard anything about it, but I know it's happening. I know. The second thing is I want to support and promote the Citizens Academy. I've been coming to the council meetings for years. I know most of you personally. I've kind of known what's gone on here. And I'm still just amazed every single week that I learned so very much. Last week we had the police department. Last night was fire department. And I'm just so impressed on what a small community Corona is, that small community feel, but it's a big city. and all the dedication that people put in on their off hours. As far as the handlers for the police dogs, the fire department, the members of the fire department that have the AEDs at home, so they're always on duty. They could be called at any time. And as much as they want us to promote the program, I'd rather do it in this format because I get to talk to more people. And I'm sure hoping that with all that we do, that we're going to continue to have another cohort in the future. It's just an amazing program. And I can't say enough about it. I'm just totally amazed. I just want to thank everybody that's participated, getting to know everybody, and it's just an amazing program. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Steve Husner, 777 South Temescal, Corona La Linda. I wish there was one time where I wasn't nervous at all up here. It gets better, but okay. Corona La Linda, space 123. Last night we had a meeting at our clubhouse. We had a good turnout, unfortunately. Some that said we're going to be here aren't, but we have a couple more speakers. But talking about the children's daycare, I was like, it kind of hit my heart because a lady last night, mobile home park by the neighborhood Walmart, I'm spacing out on the name, but she has a 60-day eviction. She can't afford the rent. She has 2 daughters. She doesn't speak English, but if she spoke, she didn't want to speak because she's scared, of retaliation and everything. But it kind of hit my heart. I'm like, it's like, wow, she's going to be on the streets, So speaking of children, it kind of touched my heart because this is so important for rent stabilization. Every July is the rent increase. Ours was almost 7.5%. Some other parks are more above the CPI. I don't know how that's possible, but so ours is it's $80 or $90 for this year. Next year, if it continues, it'll be roughly 115, 120. The year after that, it's going to be about 150. That's almost $400 in 3 years. And there's already people living on the edge. So that's how urgent this rent stabilization is. And I do appreciate everything that's going on. And I was a little disappointed about that survey with the telephones. One of the managers was caught stealing them from the people, but they mailed them back out. I was hoping for a higher percentage of that, but a lot of people are also scared if they do it on their phone. They're scared of, they're just paranoid about being harassed and stuff. And my wife said hello. She's out of town. That's why she couldn't be here tonight. And I'm praying that this happens for the people. They're making so much money on the rent. I just believe this would be the right thing to do, and I'm just praying that this can happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Selene Torrealba. I'm here from 77 South Temescal Street in Corona La Linda also. I was just here wondering about all the things that you're going through right now, the ones of the kids, and I was thinking of that too. For many years, I've been helping out my husband to work and have our children raised and everything. But now it's been really hard. I've been disabled, so now he's the only one working. We need this rent stabilization as soon as possible, and I know they've been working for years and years on it, but it's really, really hard for us to maintain our kids and the YMCA things that you guys have because we can't afford that. And if they're trying to raise it up and the rent is coming up, everything is going up, so we're just leaving it to each day to afford everything around for our children and for ourselves too. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, council members and the people in the audience and the other guests. Once again, I'm telling you, I'm the Lone Ranger up here fighting for the rights of the people who are afraid of not trusting the government or not trusting their budget where they're working. We do need the schools. We do need respect in the schools to taught manners as well. But we also have had astronomical gas prices raises. We've had increases above CPI in some of our residents in our park. When I first started that park, our rent increase was $6 and no more than $11 per year. Now it's over $100 and some dollars per year. I just talked with one of my other neighbors, which I have not met in a while, even though I lived there for over 30 years. Their gas bill was $400. Their space rent was $2,400 with their mortgage. These are putting a crunch on everybody. I know we have to maintain and sustain our mobile home parks and buildings, but when you spend $1,500 to replace plants and your sewer system has to be hydrojetted once a month, now come on, let's get real and down to business. And we need the rent stabilization, and we don't need property owners to increase the rents to facilitate their investors. And yes, they're entitled to their money, but at what point do you say no? Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Members of the City Council and City staff, my name is Stephen Nguyen, and I'm a representative for Riverside County Assessor, Clerk Recorder, Peter Aldana. Our office is dedicated to serving the public by providing a wide range of essential services. Our assessor function works tirelessly to locate all taxable property in the county, determine its value, and maintain accurate records on all assessments. Our county clerk function offers a variety of important services, including filing fictitious business names, issuing marriage license, and registering notaries. Lastly, our recorder function is responsible for creating and maintaining custody of permanent records for all documents filed and recorded in Riverside County. We provide public access to information regarding land ownership and maintain copies of all certificates of marriage, births, and deaths that occur in Riverside County. At the core of everything we do is a commitment to serving the public, providing excellent customer service, and making our services accessible to all. We have 6 locations across Riverside County to serve the public. These cities include Blythe, Temecula, Hemet, Palm Desert, Gateway Riverside, and downtown Riverside. We also have a great website that you can visit anytime. The website is rivcoacr.org. And I just want to thank everyone for a chance, for the opportunity to reintroduce our office and the essential services that we provide to the county. And I just want to make myself accessible to all of you, everyone in audience. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. I did forget to put my business card up for viewing, but if anybody wants to copy down my number and email, please reach out if you have any questions. Is that right?
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening. How are you?
Good. Good evening, Mayor. My name's Carmen Lopez. I'm a proud resident of Corona. I've been here since 2007 and worked here in Corona since 1998. And I'm with Signature Scuba. I'm a scuba diver. And I also work closely with a nonprofit program for the veterans. My friend Lisa is also here representing SDV, Signature Divers Veterans. And we also work with Dive Guardians, which is also a program for veterans.
Good evening, City of Corona, council personnel, and staff. First, thank you for allowing us to come and speak. My name is Lisa, the media representative and a wife of a veteran. And Carmen Lopez is the event coordinator of Signature Dive Veterans and Dive Guardians. Focusing on our disabled veterans and of Dive Guardians, which focuses on all branches of first responders, located here in Rancho Cucamonga in California. Both of our organizations provide veterans and first responders with mental and physical help, and that is connected to their service to our country. As a 501c3 nonprofit organizations, we are raising awareness and coordinating fundraisers to help sponsor the benefits of the scuba diving community for our heroes. On Saturday, the 29th of April, you're all invited. It's going to be from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. to come to the soft opening of Signature Smokeout Barbecue, which part of the proceeds will go to Signature Dive Veterans. And other than the barbecue, we will have games or scuba community to ask questions and lots of fun. And it will be at Signature Scuba in Rancho Cucamonga off Jack Benny Drive near the Quake Stadium. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
In addition, I'm sorry, before the time runs out, as I planned beach cleanups, dive against debris. So this is when we dive and actually bring up trash from the ocean. Not too long ago, we were in Catalina, and we were the biggest group there with 77 representatives from
Actually, 81.
81, sorry, from Signature Scuba. Last year, when we did the cleanup, in one day with a lot of the other diving community, we brought up 1.69 ton of debris.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Evening. I just want to start off by saying that it's been 18 days since we had a horrible, horrible experience at the Airbnb on Wasatch. And I will tell you that it has not diminished the severity of it and the scariness of it. I have a child that has anxiety pretty bad, and this has been a source of an issue for her. My other child is scared. Every time we see a car in the driveway of that house or spread across the streets, we have all experiencing anxiety because we don't know what hell we're going to be experiencing. So I just want to reiterate again that these particular tenants targeted the neighbors, retaliated us for reporting code violations, scared all the neighbors. They were racing up and down the street with modified exhausts on their vehicles until at least 4:30 in the morning. The police were called, but they were only called one time. That was our fault. We should have continued calling. Everybody was scared. We didn't know what they were going to do. They were setting off car alarms. They were parking in a neighbor's driveway and revving the engines. It was just a form of intimidation, and it worked to a certain extent because obviously we didn't call the police multiple times. We don't know what they were willing to do, what kind of retaliation they were going to exhibit, what was going to happen in the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We don't know. We're kind of looking over our shoulder now. So this problem is going to obviously be ongoing as it gets warmer. We don't know what to expect. It's not the way I want to live my life. It's not the way my family deserves to live their life. We bought a home in Corona because, number one, it was clean. We thought it was going to be safe. We never dreamed that we were going to experience this. Now, obviously, every tenant isn't an issue, but I'd say a good 80-90% of them have been, and we've reported it. And because we've reported it, we're getting backlash from the owners, from the city, the policies. I don't even have time to get into that. We're all upset. We just need some change. We need some help. We have 3 other members of our community that turned in cards to have letters read, and now they're being told that they're unable to. I don't think it's right. I think everybody needs to hear it. You guys, the audience, the people on YouTube or whoever it's being broadcasted. People need to hear this.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes,
You guys were here at the last council meeting.
absolutely.
And something happened after that council meeting?
No, it's the same incident I'm referring to.
Okay.
It's very traumatizing.
No, I
Yeah,
get it, and I don't
for
want to
sure.
diminish from
No, no,
that,
of
but but between the two today and the last one.
There's
it's
only been one tenant there in the meantime,
Okay,
and so far it has been okay. We have not complained when it's been a quiet tenant because there's nothing to complain about. We're happy. It would be
Sure.
happier if it was a long-term rental. If they don't want to live there, rent it long-term. That would be fine. They'd be part of the community. Their children would go to school with my children. It would not be an issue. But the fact is, those are not the people who are renting it to. They're having parties. It's just one big party central.
okay, I don't
Yeah.
want to take away from it.
No, of course not.
Trying to understand more.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, really quick, I just wanted to mention that this item is coming before council.
I saw that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so it's not that we don't want to hear, we absolutely do. We know exactly where you guys stand, and that's the whole point. We have to look at the policy and figure out what can be done about it.
Yes.
So it's never as fast as anybody would like. It's also
Never.
not as fast as we would like. But, there's a lot of things that staff is doing. So it is going to come before council. And I'm sure that you will be here supporting, some
Yes.
sort of decision to be made.
Absolutely. The thing is that, Councilmember Steiner was not here to hear the last meeting where we all had an opportunity to speak on it and really share how traumatized we are from it and what's happening. So I felt like it was very important for me to get up and speak, knowing he was going to be here too. Although I appreciate everybody else listening, he was not here to experience it.
Mayor, real quick?
Please.
I did watch it, though.
Oh, you did?
I heard every word. You bet
Wonderful.
I did. And you're not the only person that is complaining about these short-term rentals. There's a couple families up in my district. It's the same scenario. They're scared, they're intimidated, and we've had these discussions with staff, and that's why we're bringing it forward. So we just kind of need to know what it all is, right? And whatever policy decisions we make, we want to make sure they're fair to a property owner as
Right.
well. But, man, I'm behind you 100%.
See, the problem is the policies were put in place so many years ago that and the policies itself contradict some of the other policies. There's nothing.
Times are changing. We need
Absolutely.
to do some updating
Absolutely.
for sure.
So yeah, it's getting more and more difficult to even report the problems because there's conflicting codes. It's a little bit wishy-washy. So I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your questions. Anytime I can be of any help, please contact me. And just on a side note, the kids at the daycares, is there any way to fundraise for that?
Probably.
I think it would be great because I think a lot of people would donate, even if it's a little bit, it'll add up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, I should say. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Marty Woleski, and my wife and I are in Corona District 5. I am thrilled to hear Councilmember Steiner say that you're 100% behind us and you watched the last meeting where we were present. That was my first council meeting ever since moving here in 2010. I'm here again just because I knew you were going to be here, and just wanted to, again, express our support, our neighborhood support for change. Just a little bit about us. My wife and I, my wife is a small business owner in Corona. We moved here in 2010. We actually relocated from Minnesota for my work. We thought Corona was a beautiful community. Everyone knows California is an expensive place to be. My job's in Orange County, and this has worked out great for us and our family. We raised 3 children here. When we moved, they were 4th grade, 2nd grade, and kindergarten, and our neighborhood was absolutely wonderful. So we're kind of on the tail end. I've got a high school senior now. But I think the key thing that I expressed last time from our point of view is what's going on next to our home is the exact opposite of a home. It's not the place of residence of the owner. The owner lives in Oregon. There's no social unit there or family living there. It's a weekly 3-day party. And, you know, this isn't a friendly environment that's being created. There's safety concerns, noise complaints, parking violations, calls to law enforcement, neighborhood intimidation. The list kind of goes on and on. So I guess we saw that it moved up on the agenda from item number, I believe, 40 to number 22. But, you know, I think when we don't see a future date, that's why a lot of us are here. You know, we just want some urgency behind it. And I know that's easier said than done. You have a lot of important business. Again, second meeting since 2010, so I trust my elected officials. We're just asking for your support. We are your neighbors, and I just ask you to think about if you had a 3-day weekly pop-up hotel nightclub next to you, you know, would you have urgency on getting this addressed? And I thank you for your time and consideration.
Sir, really quick, I just want to point out that it's on the list and the number doesn't denote where it's at. A lot of these items get worked on consecutively, and so as they come to a conclusion, the date gets put on there. So I don't want you to think that it's, you know, it's not moving up the list fast enough. It's just,
thank you, Mayor.
As it's being processed through, we will be able to finalize it quicker.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome again.
Good evening again. Joe Morgan, 2063 Ren. So I want to come down first to congratulate our clerk on, she's a master municipal city clerk. Did I get it right? Right. So she's easily one of the my top two favorite people in City Hall. Is that good? Is that over? Is that so it goes back and forth, but she's always at the top. And I also want to thank my friend Carmen for coming down. Carmen's a badass. You know, so known her a long time. She's works for a good friend of mine, and she started telling me about this the dive program, and I immediately was thinking, oh yeah, Karen has to know about this. That they work with vets with PTSD. And we were talking about it in terms of, you know, the homeless services, you know, and just it's one of the cool things that's going on here is it's like there's a whole bunch of places for people to plug into this here and people to help. And you know, if there's 100 people on the streets, there's like 500 stories about the 100 people on the street and 500 different ways that people can help and people can pitch in. And there's certain people that are going to work with this program, certain people who work with that program, you know, and some of the people are vets and some of the people are this. And, you know, so she's like, yeah, we're in. We want to do something. We want to do something. So I really appreciate her coming down. And lastly, on this short-term rental thing, I appreciate you guys bringing it up. And really what needs to happen is we need to have a really big club to take to the abusive landlords, the abusive Airbnb people. You know, if, like they said, they don't complain about tenants, the renters that don't cause problems because there's nothing to complain about. And I really think, you know, it's interesting because I was at the meetings when the short-term rental thing came up, and it was like, we have short-term rentals? And the thing was all about TOT and formalizing the process so they could get permits, so that it was all about tax. Nobody was thinking that anybody would actually be here. It's people they're gonna come to town for a business meeting or something. There just wasn't that fleshing out of, well, what if? What's the upside? What's the downside? Like we did with the cannabis ordinance. Well, how did this city handle it? How did that city handle it? They didn't do any of that stuff because it wasn't really a thing. It was kind of all in the abstract. So the rules and the enforcement and where you're going to do this, you're going to do that seemed like it was kind of cut and pasted from another city's thing. At the time, it seemed reasonable to do that because nobody really knew anything about it. And now we know, okay, well, some of them are good and some of them are bad. And it should be a way to divide up the good ones from the bad ones and take a club to the bad ones and let the good ones go do their business because nobody cares. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards, are there any more cards?
Mayor, we do not have any more cards.
Okay. Moving on to public hearings. Item number 17, public hearing, specific plan amendment 2022-0008 to the Dos Lagos specific plan to amend the sign regulations for freeway-oriented pylon signs and monument signs for commercial centers 20 acres in size or larger. The applicant is Bravo Whiskey Properties, LLC, and Dos Lagos Squared, LLC. Does any council member want a staff report on this item? No? Okay. The public hearing is now open. Ms. Edwards, has the city clerk's office received correspondence regarding this item?
Mayor, we did not receive correspondence.
Ms. Edwards, did we receive any speaker cards from the public?
Yes, Mayor, I have one speaker card for this item.
No?
He has withdrawn his speaker card.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues? No? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Got to read it.
Of course. Very proud to read this one. I think the gentlemen, Dos Lagos, have done a great job, and I'm happy to see this go forward. So introduce by title only and waive the full reading of the ordinance number 3368. First reading of the ordinance approving the amendment to the Dos Lagos Specific Plan, SP 99-03, to amend the sign regulation in section 4.3.6A1 and 2 to increase the size of digital display area of the permitted freeway-oriented pylon signs and monument signs for commercial centers 20 acres in size or larger, SPA 2022-0008.
Please vote. Okay, that item passes 5-0. Moving on to administrative reports. Number 18, update on the Committee of the Whole and Study Session Meetings Pilot Program. Sylvia Edwards, the city clerk, will present the item.
Master City Clerk.
Yeah, Master City Clerk.
I was about to say that, your favorite master municipal city clerk.
Technically, it's
And in Joe's top two.
1 and 2, that's right.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. Today I will be providing an update on the pilot program for our monthly meetings. Our ask tonight is that the City Council provide feedback on the Committee of the Whole and Study Session pilot program. Councilmember Steiner and Vice Mayor Richens requested that the item be placed in an agenda for us to review, holding less meetings per month. On January 4th, the council directed staff to start a pilot program to meet 2 Wednesdays per month. So currently, as part of the pilot program, we are meeting the first and third Wednesday of each month. The first Wednesday, the Committee of the Whole is at 3:30, the closed session is at 5:30, and the City Council meeting at 6:30. And then the third Wednesday of the month, the study session is at 3:30, closed session at 5:30, and the City Council meeting at 6:30. So the two options for council consideration is option 1, to continue to meet 2 Wednesdays per month, or option 2, to return back to meeting 4 Wednesdays per month. So this is where we get the direction from the council.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Ms. Duarte, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Yes, Mayor, we do have one speaker card for this item.
So, like last time, I'm kind of two minds about this, just as a member of the public who attends these meetings. So, I really think you ought to have weekly meetings, short ones. You know, I see no reason why the discussion this afternoon couldn't have taken place at a meeting, at a regular meeting. You know, to have something start at 6, start at 5:30, something like that, and you could be out of here by 7 o'clock, 7:30, maybe even 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock some weeks, and get them out. I have appreciated the last few months. Look, there's some Wednesdays. Hey, I don't need to be down here. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little convenient. You know, it's nice. You know, But on the other hand, what's the meeting for? Is it to make you guys, you know, why are we having these meetings in the room? What are we here for? What's this all about? Why do we pretend this is public if it's sort of a hide the nut kind of a game? You know, 'cause that's kind of what it is. Nobody knows when the meetings are. You know, they never have. And it will be much better to have everybody go, yeah, council meets Wednesdays. You know, and I know it takes a lot of your time. Again, probably there's not a lot of regular residents that know about that more than me. This really should be a public meeting, and the stuff that happens on a Thursday morning or a Wednesday afternoon twice a month should be taking place at a regular meeting. You know, that historic discussion that happened this afternoon. Super fascinating, super interesting. It's impactful. It matters. And it's at a meeting nobody's going to see, nobody's going to hear. You know, because it's a meeting that nobody even knows exists outside of, you know, whoever I can shout it to, which not that many, you know. So I really, if you missed a meeting, the world didn't end because you weren't here last time. And you got to, I know. You know, any of you could miss a meeting here or there if it's smaller chunks. I always tell people in class, look, if it's better off if I have a test that's 50 questions versus 25, because 50 questions, it's worth 2 points. 25 is worth 4 points. You miss one, whatever. If you break it up into little chunks, and you could schedule it a little bit easier. It seemed like it would be an easier, smaller chunk and have a regular, and you're not spending, you know, from 3 o'clock to whenever. More importantly, it would be better for the public to know when the meetings are. So thank you very much.
Good evening again, Michelle Wentworth, Parks Commissioner, but talking as a resident. I wasn't going to talk on this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. You've probably all heard from me. I don't like this format that you're doing with this council of the whole upstairs in the afternoon. I think it mimics too much that committee system where everything was not open enough to the public. I don't think that is enough transparency, enough regularity for our citizens. So I would just kind of encourage you to think along those terms as a citizen, that this is a difficult thing. And honestly, I'm just going to be very honest. You guys are making the decisions at the Council of the Whole. And when you come here, it's a whole-baked cake. It's already done, or it's 50 to 90% done a lot of times. And so when there's something on there, it's catching the public unaware. So I just kind of want to rest that at you, that even myself, as I'm agreeing with Joe, basically, that as involved as I am, I do find this format somewhat difficult. And I think you all have heard from me on the fact that I was very grateful that you got rid of the committee system, but I'm not loving this schedule with the Council of the Whole and how this is kind of working out. So I just kind of want to put that out there and I know that Ms. Alexander kind of said the same thing, like, I wanted to talk, it wasn't enough time. I think those of us that are involved, we don't want to take over too much of your time, but we want to feel like if we have people, they understand that this is when it's going down. Everyone can be here. I like when you guys are down here. I would like it if the Council of the Whole was in this room, properly recorded with the timer going and the speakers, and it's very understood by the public what's expected of them and what's expected of you. That's why being up there on that third floor really bothers me. It's too cozy. It's too chummy. And the lines aren't clear. So I just would kind of want you guys to think it over in those terms and try to look at it from maybe this public's point of view. And we're here to help you and give feedback, and that's what we want to do. So let's make it as easy as we can for us. Thanks.
Ms. Edwards, is there more speaker cards?
Mayor, we do not have any more speaker cards.
Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Yes.
Council members speak.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to have tried it this way. It's been difficult for me. It kills a half a day or more than a half a day. My normal schedule I have to completely change around to basically miss, a lot of time. However, I would say this experiment has shown that the thing that are in committee of the whole are really can be study session items. They kind of float back and forth. In fact, I saw a couple of them have morphed onto our regular agendas. So I almost think that the committee of the whole, we don't need it. I think that there is plenty of time for us to talk about some of these things here. I mean, we're getting out of here sometimes in an hour and 15 minutes, and I think there's an opportunity for us to have some more of those discussions here. Maybe not the ones that would be considered traditional study session items. I do think that we need a study session, and I hate the fact, and I predicted it back when we did this, that we would be cramped for time, and I think about 25%, I didn't do the math today, but did the math last time. The average committee of the whole meeting was, before we did this, was 2 hours and 10 minutes. The average last year was 1 hour and 43 minutes. Study sessions were 2.5 hours, 2 hours even, with 2.5 items. We've reduced the items. We've pushed more things. We had an item today that got cut in half. We've had other things that have gotten pushed around. I just think that when I signed up for this job, it's a commitment. It's a commitment that was, spelled out pretty clearly what it was, that I was here, 1 day a week in the morning or 1 day a month in the morning, first and third Wednesdays, and then the last Wednesday of the month at a specific time. I think that the committee system was born from what, previous council members have told me and staff has told me. It was born out of, there were so many things that were coming at the city at that time, that they needed to have an extra set of eyes or more time. And I think that we're past that. I think that there's really, there are items that are committee of the whole, that we look at the average time has gone down per item, that could certainly happen here. And I think, I agree with Ms. Wentworth that there's an opportunity for us to talk more here and at this location and have folks be able to hear more of what we're having to say. I don't think all the staff needs to be here for all of the discussions. I know that's one of the issues, is being here later, that maybe that Director Compu doesn't need to be, here the entire time if there's not an item that has to deal with him. But I would rather us have the time needed to do these things and have a set time that the public could attend, and not have to worry about this juggle. So I'm really more of I guess I'm always a option 1A or 2A person, always looking for an option. But I'd like to hear you guys' experiences. For me, it's been difficult. It's been nice having every other Wednesday off, and not having to do anything in work or spend it in San Diego or whatever I have to do for what I have for work. But, carving off a half a day twice a month has been difficult.
I think option one's been great. I do agree, though, that council of the whole should be here. I've always felt kind of weird up there, too, that it just wasn't as accessible. So I never really understood why it wasn't down here. And whether we call it council of the whole or just study session, I could care less, but option one seems great to me.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think the screen is just stuck on your face. So just so you know, it's like the folks are watching your reactions to what everyone else is saying. It says the mayor's face. Don't you see it? So, anyway, yeah, but it's funny because normally when you're not speaking, you're free to make faces at the other and heads up, everyone's watching. Just want to let you know. So, okay, I think it's super important for us to remember the history of Committee of the Whole. So, again,
The official committee of the whole story.
I'm a historian. Just joking. No, I'm not. Committee of the Whole, right? The previous councils had a committee structure, and it was held in the boardroom because it was only 2 board members plus staff to dive into specific issues, and that was why that setting was there. These committee meetings were more like work sessions. There were informal but not chummy, and I'm sorry to hear that. Hurt my feelings, honestly, the comment about the cake baked and the chumminess. I mean, we have fun, and to be honest, it's necessary for our mental health to enjoy some part of this job, because it can be taxing in a lot of ways, but I'm sorry that comes off as chummy. That room is it's been an evolution. That room was held because that's where the committee rooms were the committee meetings were held. But the committee structure itself, we had some committees that had actual substantive material, and then there was other committees that didn't. And every year, the mayor got to assign who became the two representatives on those committees. And when I became mayor, it's like, hey, I want that other committee, but I'm not trying to cause problems. In fact, I have something to say about everything. So we all had something to say about everything. I'm not the only one that feels that way. And so that is the evolution of Committee of the Whole. And it remained in that room because we have no way of conducting. We don't have a space to conduct, receive and file, exploratory. We don't have that space other than committee space to have those kind of conversations. Study sessions are where you dig in real deep into one or two topics. It's usually really thorough, prepared presentations. We're asking a lot of questions. Committee of the Whole, we get like a sales tax update. We might get an update on a progress. We might get but it does truly pain me to have anyone feel that the cake is baked there. So if moving the space will help alleviate that stress and create more transparency, I am not opposed to that. We can come here. It's just, it is different than a council meeting. And the further away from that structure than we move, the more confusion I anticipate there will be about what the intention of that meeting is supposed to be. That being said, to this question about this pilot program, I find myself actually being a convert, and not because I don't believe that there is space necessary and that this is not a commitment. I signed up for this commitment open-eyed. I get it. I am willing to do all the work. And as another member of this council who has a full-time job, it is painful sometimes to balance it all. But my concern about taking these meetings and putting them on the same day as council meetings was that we would feel rushed. And today, actually, we had an example of what can happen when we have something before us that we don't get completely through. And the reality is that we have an ability to pick those issues right back up at another meeting. And we don't actually have to wait a whole month for them. We can wait 2 weeks for the next council meeting and bring it back up. So there's a fail-safe there to address it. But I really like your suggestion, Councilmember Speak, about finding a way to maybe integrate, because I do believe that the council now and the issues that we're dealing with now are way different than the council 10, 12 years ago. There was a lot of development then. There was a lot of other work that we're not dealing with as much now. And there are days that we're getting out here sooner than we did before. So I would love for us to maybe explore the possibility of, rather than attaching Committee of the Whole or study session, I think we need to just protect, because I really value, and I think we make better and more informed decisions from having a study session and not mixing that up with a city council meeting. But maybe there's a space where we can have a Committee of the Whole, or maybe that's not what it's called, but a section on the agenda that's not consent calendar, that's not administrative reports, that's not a legislative matter, that dives into the things that we would have maybe normally talked about in the Committee of the Whole. And that way, it's held during a council meeting, it's accessible, transparent, and it's here in this space, but it allows us an opportunity to have those conversations that would normally have been held in that space. So I'm on board with the version that is a 1A.
1A, 2A, whatever you want to call it.
If there's an opportunity for us to explore maybe merging Committee of the Whole into a section of our agenda. And maybe that's once a month, and maybe it's just genuinely, I don't have any more suggestions than that, Mr. Ellis, but I do agree with Councilmember Speak that Committee of the Whole sometimes has some things that are of substance and some things that aren't. And maybe they can just be integrated into our council meeting so that the time thing isn't an issue. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Want to say thanks to Master Sergeant, City Clerk Edwards. A very good job. I really hope we find out who the first most person Joe likes here is. It's probably Jacob. And I like well, I've never been serious a day in my life, so that's going to happen here or up there. But I do like the idea of merging it into a city council meeting. I think as long as Jacob and Dean are cool with it, I think it's a good way forward. And then, as Jackie said, protect the study sessions so we can go deep when we need to go deep. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You know, I like the idea from the beginning because it's very difficult for those of us that do work full-time as well, to be here 4 days a week. And believe it or not, we try to be here 4 days. You know, we try to be here every single time. None of us like to miss because there's a lot of important work that goes on. I know that Councilmember Steiner, even on the East Coast at midnight, was watching our meeting. So, and I've done the same thing as well. So I really like the 2 times a month format. And the other thing that I think about is none of us are going to be here forever. Thankfully, that's for sure. But when I look at, you know, the next person that's sitting in our seats, and I wonder about the commitment because, you know, it's not like there's 30 people running for these seats, and it's because of a lot of different reasons. And one of them, which is this is a time commitment. We spend hours with this outside of the meetings, preparing for the meetings, asking questions. Councilmember Speak spends days. We spends hours. He spends days and nights. And it's a lot of work. And so I'm okay with merging the committee of the whole, whatever that is, option 1, option 2. But I like the 2 times a month format. And I think that addresses some of the concerns of you know, consistency. It's going to be the first and third Wednesday of every month. And so I'm on that same line. So does anybody want to take a stab at an alternate motion?
I think we have to make sure we can do it that way, right?
Yeah, I can speak to that. There's no trouble with that. What I'm hearing is 2 council meetings, first and third week of the month, a study session on the third meeting, and any items that would have been at a committee of the whole would be merged into the council meeting. Likely, it would be the first meeting of the month, but practically speaking, it could be split between the 2. We're essentially retiring committee of the whole.
Correct.
Understood? I don't see any reason you can't do that if you'd like to.
Okay.
Does that require a motion? Can I just say I move whatever Mr. Ellis just said? What Mr. Ellis just said?
I just have one more question. So with the study session, you know, we're still stuffing a lot of information in 2 hours. Or hour and a half.
Well, the other thing too, if you remember, I think 3 or 4 times in that stretch, we had cancellations because there wasn't items for the study session and there wasn't items for committee of the whole. I think we had either 2 or 3 cancellations. And in fact, I want to say the week after we started this pilot program, we had a cancellation the very next week because there was no items. So, I mean, while there is, you know, a concern that sometimes there's cramming in, there's also weeks that there's nothing.
Can I ask Mr. Ellis, if we face something in study session that was just really, really urgent and serious, super hypothetical, right? But we didn't want to wait 2 weeks to readdress, can we call a meeting sooner?
Yeah, you can always call a special meeting if that's something council wants to do. That is also an alternative.
Because what we saw today is, was an item that is being continued, and it's not being continued a month from now, it's being continued 2 weeks from now. And But if we so wanted, we could have said, hey, we want an emergency meeting tomorrow to finish this.
Yep, special meetings for sure.
Thank you.
That's not, I don't think,
I mean, it's not how I want to do,
Yeah,
but
I
what
don't
I'm
wanna do
saying
that
is,
either.
it's a little bit of of,
that's an emergency. That's to me,
right.
if
And
something
I
bad
don't
happens.
anticipate that happening ever, if often at all.
But a study session doesn't have a time limit, right? It could
Oh, it
go.
does.
It does
be-
if it's starting at 3:30. It's right
That's
before our
my,
council
my
meetings.
point. My issue was, you know, we have it in the standalone date again, so we're not worried about time. So it's a third day instead of packing it onto the second day.
But an average study session is 2 hours, right?
Yep.
So
Or
could
less,
we, and people are here till 6 now, can we move the study session to 4 and go to 6?
We have closed session and.
So that would tighten it up a little bit further. If you'd like solutions, what we can do is attempt to ensure that maybe we just, with study sessions, we only schedule one item for those agendas so that we're not trying to pack multiple items into those. If they're a smaller item, we can schedule those for a council meeting.
Or we start at 3. I mean, what's the difference between 3 and 3:30?
That too.
Right? I mean,
That
for
too.
me, I gotta be here, well, yeah.
That
but
too.
It's
If starting earlier-
Half the day is screwed for me anyway, so it doesn't really matter. For me, I'm just saying, it's for
Is
me,
there
half
any
an hour
other ways
difference
we can screw Wes
would have made
over,
a
or-
difference today.
Yes, you're right. Today, half an hour would have made a difference.
Would have made a difference the last meeting too.
You're right.
I'm all for 3 o'clock, yeah.
3 o'clock?
So to recap, we have a first and a third council meeting as usual. We have a study session on the third meeting of the month, and it starts at 3 o'clock. Other committee of the whole items will be merged into regular council agendas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll make the motion to,
Do we need to vote on it?
We can just do consensus. As long as we have the consensus from the council, we can move forward with that option.
okay.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Councilmember Steiner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, moving on to legislative matters, ordinance amending section 9.22020 of the Corona Municipal Code relating to rules and regulations for sale or consumption of alcoholic beverages on public property. Does any council member want a staff report on this item?
Councilmember Steiner does.
Ann Turner, Community Services Director, will present the report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Ann Turner, Director of Community Services. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This is really a cleanup for us. We hadn't looked at the alcohol policy for quite some time, and as we're expanding special events and as we're looking at giving you those big impact special events that you're looking for, we realized that the alcohol policy needed to be amended to include the front lawn area of the HCC particularly so that we could do those bigger events on 6th Street. We also wanted to include the patio area of the senior center as we're doing some of that renovation, that makes that facility more usable for us for programming as well as for rental. And then finally, we wanted to remove the indoor areas of the former police building because obviously that building is going away, so we wanted to take that out of the policy. So this is really a cleanup for us and allowing our staff to provide you with the kind of high quality and large special events that the council's been asking for. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have one speaker card for this item.
Okay.
Howdy, I come to you as sober as a judge. My apologies for not having read this item beforehand on the agenda packet. But this issue came up, and I feel comfortable with what Dr. Turner said. This issue came up several years ago with the idea of having alcohol on public property on city grounds. And at that time, we had a particularly obnoxious religious influence on the city council, and unfortunately, that's no longer with us. And the issue then was that I felt that it should be okay to have alcohol at a fundraising dinner. After all, the Bible said alcohol was okay at a retirement dinner. So it seems to me that all this program is to do is just to extend what already exists, and which seems to be fine. So I thank her for the report, and I guess we're just moving forward. Nobody's trying to take anything away, is my understanding. Is that correct, Dr. Turner?
That's correct.
Okay, then it's cool. So see you the next time, and the first round will be on me for some of you.
Thank you. Did any of my colleagues have any questions?
I have a question.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Judge Fuller. There is a group a month or so ago that wanted to be able to serve alcohol at City Park, and they confronted me, and they said they were going to work with your organization on it, but they told me that it was, that if the city council approves it, it would be okay. Is that true, or is that changed or not changed, or?
That is not what we're asking for tonight, and that has not changed. So at this point, we do not allow alcohol in our parks. That's not what we have adjusted here. We talk about this being a permitted use, and we talk about special events. You'll notice that events like Lobster Fest that have alcohol are on the South Lawn because that's included in our alcohol policy. We're just asking tonight to clean up the policy and allow alcohol in front of the HCC to be able to expand our special events.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, I'll bite the bullet and read the motion and make the motion. So introduced by title only and waive full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3369. First reading of an ordinance amending Corona Municipal Code Section 9.22-020 of the Corona Municipal Code. It's supposed to be code, is that correct?
That is correct.
To clarify provisions relating to the rules and regulations for sale or consumption of alcohol on public property. I just need a second.
I'll second. Someone else.
Okay. Please vote. Okay, that motion passes 5-0. Moving on to boards, commissions, reports from city council, and commissions and staff for the Library Board of Trustees. This is a receive and file. The Library Board of Trustees report update for March 28th, 2023. Can I get, no, we don't need to move for that.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, we do need to make a motion for that, sorry. It's just a receive and file.
Correct. It's just a receive and file. We don't need a motion.
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
withdraw my motion.
Planning and Housing Commission, there are no reports. Parks and Recreation Commission, a receive and file the Parks and Recreation Commission report update for March 14th, 2023. Let's see. Moving on to regional meetings, everybody's favorite. This is an update from Councilmember Speak on the Southern California Association of Governments Transportation Policy Meeting of April 6th, 2023.
Well, I was just going to read the highlights, but since this is your favorite, I got 5 pages here. I can go to it. Councilmember Steiner can leave. He's fine. He's excused. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the highlights here, much to the mayor's dismay. We went over ridership levels all over Southern California. They're off as much as 43% in rail ridership, and Metrolink is seeing numbers that are higher than 60%. We voted on a couple of regional active transportation programs consisting of $361 million that they distributed from the state that support walking and bicycles. But due to constraints established by the CTC, the staff was bringing this request to the committee that I'm on and to regional council simultaneously, and there's a bunch of awards, so hopefully we get a piece of that when it comes back. Second, there was a position about transportation technology presentation from the federal office that talked about basically all the different technology, and SCAG's commitment to being technology neutral, not endorsing either battery or hydrogen or any other item, just basically whatever would get us to carbon neutrality the quickest. And let's see, and the last one probably was the most fun because I got to yell and scream a little bit. It was a presentation on funding strategies for financial plan. A critical element of our regional transportation strategy identifies source of funds for public and private sectors that can reasonably expected to be available to support the region's surface transportation investments. And what this came down was is revenue is decreasing because the amount of electric vehicles that are either coming on board or have been there, which will lower the gas tax. There is a way to, they've been getting money from those folks, but it is nowhere near what the impacts are. So they're really investing in and investigating a VMT charge, a vehicle miles traveled charge. So you'll have to pay for how many miles you drive. They haven't figured out how they're going to do that yet. But they're also going to pair that with local road charges. So there'll be, if you drive on local roads in certain places, you have to pay a fee. There'll be destination charges. If you're parking in a parking lot, some of those fees will go to the regional agencies, and of course, more toll lanes. And then, so my question was, well, when are you going to tell the public about this? And there wasn't a lot of. In fact, I got the question was, what's the question? And I said, the question is, when are you going to tell people this, that this is coming, and that you want people out of their cars? And I asked, well, what are you going to do with the funds? Are they going to keep going to the regional transportation agencies? Are they going to go to the state? Where are these funds going to go? And the answer I got was it's going to go right back into public transportation, including basically reallocating funds from the people that can afford to drive to folks that can't, and they will get free transportation on public transportation. Kind of a pay-to-play, so to speak. And that was it.
I'm actually going to take just a few minutes because I actually wanted to make a comment on that, and I can't believe I'm going to do this. Sorry, Jim. But I was going to save this for my comments, but it's applicable now. I attended yesterday a conference in Los Angeles, the InfraDay conference, which was all about infrastructure. And everything that you just said, I heard out of the mouths of executive directors of Caltrans and other organizations. Essentially, because of the Infrastructure Act money that was allotted to the state of California, there's a lot of infrastructure projects that they're trying to get completed by the 28 Olympics. That's the goal. And they've said, and a lot of the folks said the same things. They said they were talking about utilizing gas taxes and road charges to subsidize the fact that ridership is down due to COVID and a lot of other reasons for rail and bus. And the goal was, I heard this more than once, and it was kind of infuriating, was to move to zero emissions and to compound those sustainability measures to get more money from the federal government for infrastructure projects, but with the goal of getting people zero emissions, whether that's, buying electric vehicles or taking electric buses. There was lots of talk of electric big rigs being used to transport goods from the ports and et cetera, and the 710 corridor being one of the big ones. And I was almost in shock at the way that these people were talking about, well, people are just going to have to get out of their cars, or people are just going to have to give up their cars. And it's always hilarious to me because California is a car culture in a lot of different ways, and it's not, and again, with the, looking at it from an equitable state of mind, how do you get people who, they rely on their car for work or for transportation, where buying a $60,000 EV is just not an option? And so what you're saying is 100% true. And listening to these folks in these infrastructure conferences talk about, well, we're just going to have to educate the public and explain to them why giving up their car is better for the environment, which we all want to make the environment better, but we also have not invested in the last 100 years in sound infrastructure that would allow for mass transit. So it's very interesting. Sorry, Jim, I had to actually.
That was really good.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so the next regional meeting report, again, from
guess what?
Councilmember Steiner, or Councilmember Speak.
What?
On the Riverside County Transportation Commission meeting on April 12th, 2023.
Let's see, there was an executive session that we didn't talk about much, just some CPI salary stuff, which is the same as kind of everybody else. We did award $49 million to RTA for funding their project. They talked about ridership being 37% of pre-pandemic levels, 70% as of last month, so that was a good thing. And the biggest increase they saw was on bus ridership from students. Apparently, that's pretty big. They did their new Go Micro project in Hemet, which is a smaller kind of bus system that'll go wherever you want, but along the exact lines that they have now. It's been really well. They're hoping to roll it out in a couple of other places. I tried to lobby for Corona. I know that Councilmember Steiner will as well. But 70,000 college students ride RTA. 75,000 college students ride RTA every year. The one kind of infuriating thing I thought I was asked by Councilmember Conder from Riverside. He asked, I constantly follow 40-foot buses around, and I said, that's something I don't do. I don't follow buses. But apparently he does, and he regularly counts on the average of 3 people on a 40-foot bus. So he asked, why don't we have smaller buses? Why don't we drive smaller buses? And the answer came back from the RTA is that it's a contractual part of the MOU for bus drivers that they cannot drive anything less than 40 feet. So I asked again, and I said, well, why is that? And they said it's in their contract that they're not allowed to drive a bus that's less than 40 feet. So I said, I'm going to get Councilmember Steiner right on that, the next RTA meeting, and take care of it. We finalized our agreement with SBTTA with the blessing of the TIFIA folks, the federal loan folks because we still have a TIFIA loan out on our 15 project. The SBCTA project is a connection, basically connecting their toll lanes to the Riverside County toll lanes, and we would be subleasing them a piece in Riverside County because technically they're not allowed to build in Riverside County. However, it was going to lower the amount of revenue for that section, so the federal government had to agree to that, and that took 2.5 months for them to agree, because anything we do to the 15 and the tolls, that has to be, since we have that $152 million loan, has to be agreed to by the feds. So it was, and then we got a legislative update that was kind of, a lot of awful things that I don't want to go into. And that was it.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards for the public and regional updates?
Mayor, yes, I have one speaker card for agenda item 23.
Thank you.
Hi, Don Fuller again. I'm going to address this to Mr. Speak because he's with the RCTC. And this concerns specifically the transition road that goes from the southbound 71 to the eastbound 91. As you're coming south on the 71, it's 2 lanes, and the right lane takes the 91 west, and the left lane takes the 91 and goes underneath the 91 and pick up the 91 east. I think I brought this up before. The pavement in there is atrocious. And and I'm pretty good, but I think it might be impossible to get through there without hitting something pretty bad. And there was a reason back in the day that racing teams running 24-hour races like to have me as one of the drivers, because I was both fast and I kept the car out of trouble. But I don't know how you'd get through that spot in that transition without hitting something bad. And I'm through there about 3 days a week. And I can't believe that there haven't been bent rims, blown out tires, all of that. Even if you got cop shocks, cop brakes, cop everything, like they did in Blues Brothers. So my question is, and I know that spot is being torn up. I know it's going to be redone. I know it's going to be all new in a while. Is there anything that could be done? And I don't expect an answer now, because you don't have one now. But I would just like to know if there is some way that the subject could be brought up with RCTC RCTC, and guess what? You're the lucky one in here because, you know, you got that job. So to do something to make it somewhat better in the meantime, because it's really, it's noticeably, remarkably awful.
I appreciate you telling me that, and I will tell you that it's probably for a very dumb reason why it's like that. And I'll tell you, I said I'll tell you that the reason why it's like that most likely is that when RCTC starts a project on the state highway system, they, as part of the agreement with Caltrans, they have to do all the maintenance for that, maintenance and cleanup and everything else for that section.
Right.
And sometimes there are either miscommunications between Caltrans. They were probably supposed to do that before RCTC took that on. It sounds like you're telling me it hasn't. So I will reach out to my contact at RCTC and tell them they need to take a look at that stretch of road.
There are bad patches on top of bad patches, and I don't know if it's worse to hit the pothole on the one side or the bad patch on the other side. I mean, I think I could get through there on a motorcycle, you know, but that's only needs one pathway. But a car, I really don't know how you get through there in a car without hitting something really bad.
Yeah, I know it's going to be redone, but if it's gotten hammered that bad, it needs to be fixed in the meantime. So I'll mention it for sure.
And it doesn't have to be the big deluxe lasts for 20 years deal. It's only got to make it for what, 18 months or something, or something like that. So
thank you.
That's all. Thank you very, very much, sir. Thank you very much. Everybody have a good night and get home safe.
Thank you. Okay, city attorney reports and comments. Mr. Derlich, do you have any comments? City manager report. Mr. Ellis, do you have any comments?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Do my colleagues have any comments?
I have just one. I want to say thank you to finance staff. I know Ms. Sitton's not here today, but I constantly ask kind of random questions, believe it or not. And I asked a question about a CFD, 96-1 Series A, that is a CFD for the folks that live on the streets around Polaris, also all in District 5. Mountain Pass, Windhaven, Hanover, Bainbridge, Regina, Orange Heights, west of Malaga, Feather Peak, Shepherd's Crest, and a couple of the streets that are in between that I can't tell. That was originally a CFD that was supposed to end up in 2025. However, due to Ms. Sitton's wonderful crack staff, we're able to announce that this year will be the last year that they will see an assessment on that CFD. So that's anywhere, I think, from some people it's about $700, and some people it's almost $1,000. So
a year?
A year.
Wow.
So some significant savings, and I was hoping, Mr. Ellis, if Ms. Sitton could let us know. I think there's a few other ones that are going to be expiring in the next year or two. If she could give us just a roundabout which ones are going to end early due to their stewardship of the funds.
Yeah, we'd be happy to provide that.
Great, thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, I wanted to just thank all the citizens that came out to our tree planting beautification event. Thank Dr. Turner and Community Services Department, Gary, Mark, Nick, Madeline, and team. They did a great job as always, and we got a lot done at Ridgeline Park up in Sierra del Oro. We planted 60 trees in the park and around the park, painted gazebos and picnic tables and trash cans, and spread just tons and tons of mulch throughout the park. And I can't wait to see what that area will look like in 10 years from now when the trees have matured. And it's a great thing we're doing. So please thank your team for me. That's all.
Council members Casillas.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Steiner just triggered a thought. I've been receiving more than usual emails or phone calls from residents who are recognizing that there are new trees in the community. And I just want to remind everyone about the fact that this is an investment in our community. We heard loud and clear from all of us when we went on a more than a year-long journey for our strategic path, our strategic plan, that we want to see a beautiful city. We want to be proud of our community. We want to reinvest in our actual physical space. And one of the great ways to do that is to plant all of the tens of thousands of missing trees around our city. And our goal is to plant 3,000 trees a year for the next 5 years, which means that you're seeing new trees in your neighborhood. And I know that that means that there's now a new tree that you are tasked with taking care of, but I implore you to care for that tree, to recognize its significance, to see it as your small part in contributing to the reforestation of the city of Corona and to our beautiful city. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I first and foremost want to talk about last Thursday, we had a spring workshop. And if you didn't watch it, I would highly, highly recommend everybody go and watch it. It's probably the best meeting I've ever sat through. And the reason being is you learn how much the city is doing right now. And it's beyond impressive. It's past my imagination of impressive. So if you didn't watch it, go and watch it. Well worth it. And next, I would like to say the Day of the Child is this Saturday. If you haven't been, I highly recommend you go. I'm sure I will be in tears again because they highlight children, and this whole function, this whole day is about children, children in need. It's a great event. It can use all the support it can get. I'm so glad it happens. And then last but not least, I've been at odds with the California League of Cities for some time now. And I got stuck in a meeting where they sat me next to the president of the League of Cities.
I was gonna ask you if you figured out who Ali was.
Well, he knew who I was. I didn't know who he was. And we talked it out, and he said there's some changes coming that, yeah, actually, I really like him. I don't know that I wanted to sit next to him. And it didn't help to have my wife there because she just dug right in too. And I was like, oh, here we go. But we're working it out with the League of Cities, and I'm happy to say that we're in good graces. The president's doing good, and Aaron, our representative, is wonderful. So I hope they're listening. I'm guessing they probably aren't. But that's my comments. Thanks, Mayor.
Great. So the meeting that Vice Mayor Richens was talking about was the Corona Norco Islamic Society's Iftar on Sunday, the 16th, which was a fantastic event. I like to call it Iftar al fresco. We ate outside, and it was really a wonderful interfaith event. A lot of people were there. If you get an opportunity next year, it's open to the entire public. They just ask that you RSVP. Somehow they think that they're not going to have enough food, but they have way more food than they probably need. And I am certain that they did something, some good works with any leftovers that they had. So it was a beautiful event. Next year, please, 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 if you have the opportunity to attend, do so. They are one of the most welcoming groups of people that I have ever met. So please go if you can. The previous Saturday to that, the 15th, I attended the Veterans Care Workshop at Skyland Brewery. This is another great event hosted by the Joe Dominguez American Legion. And essentially what it was a workshop for veterans. They had different organizations that were there to assist veterans. Sadly, not enough veterans take advantage of the things that are available to them. They simply just don't know. A lot of folks said that the military doesn't do a great job of telling them what their VA benefits are and, you know, how to do things like VA loans on houses and what that means. And it was just a great event for veterans. It was by veterans for veterans in order to get them connected to the services that they rightfully are due. So that was a great event. And then I want to give a shout out to our economic development team on Monday, the 17th, a new business that moved to Corona. It's called Ipoca, has relocated to Corona. They took over a 150,000 square foot building. They have an operation in Southgate that they are winding down because they needed the space. They went from about 50,000 square feet to 150,000 square feet of manufacturing. And what was really interesting is the entire economic development team was there, and they went over all of the services that are provided to our businesses and everything that, from workforce development to partnerships with Edison, just the whole list. And it was really great to see kind of them rolling out the welcome carpet and the welcome mat to this new business, who in that meeting was talking about when they were looking for other cities, and they've been looking for 2 years. A lot of other cities would give them the charges for overtime for their city staff to help them do all the things that we provide for free. And so I want to give them a shout out because they did a great job of lining up all of the different opportunities for this new business coming to town. They're going to end up hiring 40 to 50 people locally in order to run their manufacturing processes. And it's going to be a great win. And the company was very thankful to hear about all of these opportunities that are available to them and how welcoming they are, or how welcoming they felt. So that was great, and I wanted to give a shout out to our economic development team for doing a great job. So please pass that along to them. And then I want to remind anybody that's watching on Sunday from 7 to 9 at Griffith Park, I'm having my second annual Talks with Tony. So I'm hopeful that anybody that can attend will be there. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. The next meeting is going to be Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. This meeting is adjourned.